added to the Coast Star, the official newspaper of the Borough of Belmar and the Asbury Park Press on August 20, 2014. A notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Remember our troops abroad and their families here at home. Thank you. Will the council please join me up to dais for presentation?
I saw a science class in college last week's debate of us. Yeah. Trying to take the words of your line and the presentations.
Sure. Thank you. Smart, George. Framing the shot.
We never think about it.
Our first order of business is going to be a resolution. I'll just read it out. Resolution appointing Michael Campbell, Sergeant of the Belmar Police Department, to invite some consent of the Borough Council. I'll offer.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michael Campbell, come on up. I, Michael Campbell,
I, Michael Campbell,
do solemnly swear
that
that I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and I will faithfully,
impartially,
and justly perform
all duties
as Sergeant of the as Sergeant of the Belmar Police Department
as Sergeant of the Belmar Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Stick 'em. Quietly, want to say a few words?
I would just like to, thank everybody for this opportunity and continue to do the best I can for this community.
Michael is now a sergeant in an outstanding police department. A lot of men and women that we can be proud of. We saw how they act during the summer, during some tough months. We have some outstanding leadership here. Chief Palmazzano, Captain Heisman, Lieutenant Scott, Lieutenant Cox do an outstanding job. And now Sergeant Campbell also joins those ranks as well. And I gotta tell you, one of the first ride-alongs I ever did was with Mike Campbell. If he remembers this, maybe back in 2006 or so. And I can tell you, he does an outstanding job, and this is truly deserving to him. And we congratulate him and his family, and hopefully it's a fun day for his two kids as well. So that's our swearing in. I imagine you guys have somewhere to go, so we don't want to hold you up. But if you guys want to head out with the Campbell family, congratulations, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. we do this every month, and it makes sense to do something summer related. So our employee of the month for this month is Corinna Wykowski.
No, in second thought, let's choose someone else.
So let me read you a little bit. So Corinna has worked for Belmar for 18 years. She started working at Belmar in 1986. She's one of our most trusted and talented lifeguards. This season she assumed a leadership role as assistant chief lifeguard. 2014 was an extraordinary year of water-related emergencies and a huge number of rescues. She, along with Ray Alms, the chief lifeguard, worked to ensure that the team was well-trained and organized to meet the challenges of this season. And she's passionately dedicated to Belmar, our residents, beachgoers, and visitors of our town. So, we've had a lot of high-profile rescues, particularly by the water rescue team that comes after hours. But the amount of rescues that our lifeguards do routinely number in the hundreds, particularly when we have, challenging water out there and bad rip currents. And some people, unfortunately, don't listen to the lifeguards as they should, and they still go in the water. Our lifeguards are right there, and again, it's just like our police department has outstanding leadership, so does our lifeguards. So, Corinna, congratulations. You want to say a few words?
Well, it's easy to work in Belmar. The support that we have from the police department, and council, the residents, the badge checkers, the bathroom, everybody comes together, and it's kind of the hot spot of the Jersey Shore this morning. So it's a great festival.
Corinne and I have been good friends for many, many years. She's been a teacher at St. Rose, a great partner with my wife, and many times I've substituted at St. Rose for when Corinne was out. She runs a great gym class over there at St. Rose, and she's a great family friend in the McGoverns. So, congratulations.
You get your $100 Belmar bucks to spend somewhere at Belmar, and of course we take a picture of you and put it on the big upgrade. All your friends to remind. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job. Next we're going to have a presentation from our friends at the summer surf camp. Sean, you want to come up?
So I'm Sean McGrath. My business partner is Marco Martin and Gil Olson. We run Summertime Surf School. Proud to say we got our start in Belmar 9 years ago, and we have since taken that model and expanded it all over New Jersey and going out of state next year, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But we just want to thank the town again for another successful summer. And with our stand-up paddle operation at L Street, we noticed that this year that the bathrooms need a service. They need to be repaired, and we'd like to make a small, modest donation to the town to work on getting the bathrooms up to speed. Since the town's so good to us, working with Matt and the council and DPW Mike and everybody, Franny and George and all of our friends here. So we just want to say thank you publicly and just make a modest donation towards fixing the bathrooms.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
How about that? Get out of the bar about that. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're right, those bathrooms do.
Oh, they're locked up right now. They're locked up. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to next call up Ray Elms, who is our chief lifeguard. We have a resolution for the Belmar lifeguards for this year. This was Ray's first year being a chief. He's been on the beach for many years. but some of these probably make it. Honoring the Belmar lifeguards for extraordinary service during the 2014 season. Whereas the borough of Belmar is a top tourist destination of the Jersey Shore and attracts thousands of people to its beaches during the summer season. And whereas the Belmar lifeguards are dedicated to responding to water-related emergencies in the borough and to keep visitors and residents safe while enjoying the local waters. And whereas the Belmar lifeguards are trained and prepared to respond to water emergencies using torps, lines, jet skis, and paddleboards. And whereas during the summer of 2014, the Belmar lifeguards executed 339 torp rescues, 44 line rescues, 6 jet ski rescues, and 6 paddleboard rescues. And whereas an important service provided by the Belmar lifeguards is in assisting children who become lost on the beach. During the 2014 season, 282 lost children were assisted in finding their parents. And whereas the Belmar lifeguards take action every day to save the lives of swimmers and ensure our children are safe. And now therefore be resolved that the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Belmar hereby recognize and honor the Belmar lifeguards for their heroic actions during the 2014 beach season and honor their dedication to our town.
I would just like to thank the mayor and the council for giving me the opportunity to run the beach. I want to thank Chief Manzano for backing me up whenever I needed and coming. And my co-assistant Corinne, I couldn't have done it without her. And the DPW, whenever we needed something, they were always there to help us. Thank you very much.
I have another resolution, and this one is honoring an individual plus also our water rescue team. And some of the members of the water rescue team are made up of members of the council from Lake Como. With us tonight is Lake Como Mayor Mike Ryan. I'd like him to come up as well. So I'd like to have Chris Kinzel. Is he here? No? All right. Well, again, I want to stand by Mike as I read this. Honoring the Belmar Water Rescue Team and Christopher Kinzel for extraordinary performance in a water rescue on August 27, 2014. Whereas the Borough of Belmar is a top tourist destination at the Jersey Shore and attracts thousands of people to its beaches during the summer season, particularly holiday weekends. And whereas the Belmar Water Rescue Team was created to respond to water-related emergencies in the borough and keep its visitors and residents safe while enjoying local waters. And whereas the Belmar Water Rescue Team joined forces with Belmar First Aid to create a more effective rescue unit. And whereas in the early evening of August 27th, there was an extraordinarily large surf and dangerous rip currents along the Belmar oceanfront. And whereas between the hours of 7 and 8 p.m., there were 2 incidents of distressed swimmers, one at 3rd Avenue and later near the fishing pier. And whereas a distressed swimmer was rescued off the 3rd Avenue beach by surfer and Belmar resident Chris Kinzel, who placed the swimmer on his surfboard for safety until water rescue arrived. And whereas the water rescue team members Virginia Kropak, Thomas Stoddard, and Jesse Applegate arrived to rescue the swimmer and bring him to shore. And whereas shortly after this rescue, the water rescue team responded to a distressed swimmer near the fishing pier. And whereas the water rescue team rescued the swimmer to shore and administered first aid until the first aid department arrived. Now therefore be resolved that the mayor and the council of the Borough of Belmar hereby recognize and honor the Belmar Water Rescue Team and Chris Kinzel for their heroic actions that resulted in the saving of 2 swimmers on August 27, 2014. One of the members of that water rescue team, Jane Kropak, is also a member of the council in Como, and she was taken to the ER at Jersey Shore for a head injury that she suffered during that time. But I wanted you to come up and just say a few words.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Mayor. You know, all too often we take for granted volunteers who put their lives on the line so that we can be safe and so that we can be free and we do the things that we want to do. And I'll never forget the 27th. I was on my way home from dinner with my wife, and I'm driving down Ocean Avenue. You can see there's still a number of people that were on the beach after hours. And all of a sudden I saw the rigs coming flying down Ocean Avenue, must have been about 7:20 in that time frame. I'm just guessing, trying to reflect back. But then I saw Brian Wilton, another one of our council persons, flying down in his Jeep with his blue light on, so we knew that something had happened. Shortly thereafter, I got a call that Ginny Kropak was at Jersey Shore, that she had her head busted open, and that she was going to need some stitches, but they wanted to make sure that there wasn't further damage and that they had to do a CAT scan. And I know Mayor Doherty was over at the hospital with her. We were going back and forth with texts and phone calls because she was brought in about 8 o'clock. And when one of our police, fire, first aid, EMS gets injured, we expect them to be worked on as soon as possible. But it was a tremendous night and the activity was high at Jersey Shore, so they didn't get to see her until about 1 o'clock in the morning. And so it was really tough. But to get the phone call that she was having stitches, that as soon as the CAT scans would be done with, if there was no damage, that they would go ahead and release her, which they did, we were very thankful. But we're thankful for the teamwork. All you have to do is hear those numbers a few minutes ago about what kind of work the lifeguards do and the water rescue and the other folks that all make part of that. But one of the things that I really want to say is that it takes a lot of people to make this happen. And I know that too often we don't say thank you to those folks, so when you see them, please say thank you. But I'm proud to have one of the only councils in New Jersey whereby we have 3 members, Kevin Higgins, Ginny Kropak, and Brian Wilton, as officers and involved with the Belmar Water Rescue Team. And I know that their activity after the lifeguards go off duty has saved many, many lives over not only the last few months, but in the years past. So Mayor Matt, thank you very much. I will pass on that to our council folks. We have a council meeting Tuesday night. God bless you and thank you for all the service that you give us.
Mike, please do one first. That's all. Next is our workshop discussion. First order on our workshop discussion is ordinance 2014-01. Council meeting passes to put this on discussion.
Please, yes. I believe that this ordinance prohibits competition in the bidding process here in Belmar, and I believe that it raises the cost of the labor on every single thing that is bidded in Belmar, any project in Belmar. And I think it's our job to be stewards of the taxpayers' money, and I don't think it's wise to have this wording in our code book, and I would like an ordinance to take it out.
Just a quick point. Your current employer is Stavola, correct?
That's correct.
Stavola does work in Belmar, correct?
No.
They provide us with products from Belmar?
Possibly.
Well, you control yourself on the payment bill system, right?
I believe the DPW buys asphalt from Stavola for their roads.
Do they ever work in Belmar?
I don't believe so. I really don't know. I don't see the project list or anything.
Would this affect them if they were doing work in Belmar?
I do not know.
You don't know if it would affect them if they were working in Belmar?
No, I don't know.
If they were bidding on work in Belmar, this ordinance would affect them?
What would they don't do construction. They do heavy highway.
Paving.
Heavy highway cable.
Right, but we're going to pay a road in Belmar.
Highway. We have no highways in Belmar.
Well, we do, but yeah, there's some difference. And what's your main objection to the ordinance?
That it raises the cost of any project that could possibly bid on, that is being bid on.
How does it raise the cost?
Raise the cost by reducing competition. Because not only does this cut out the small, growing person who could bid on this, but also unions or construction companies that have unions that do not use this apprenticeship, a particular apprenticeship program. And it really cuts, it eliminates a lot of potential bidders. And therefore, less bidders, meaning less people bidding, thereby higher prices.
Does Devola have an apprenticeship program?
I don't know. I don't think. Yeah, you know what? We use a union. We use. We decide to use our paving entity grabs from a union because they don't want to have to. They don't want to have to train their on all the equipment. Is what they decide to do. Now, Earl, on the other hand, does have an apprenticeship program, but that's a different company with a different layout, a different business model. But I want to go back to here and us.
Oh, sure. So, just give us an example where it limited competition and it caused an increase in pricing.
Sure. I believe how many, I spoke with at least one, another one called me back, but left a message. Bidders that bid on the first one, not on the second one. And you know what? They said
the first one.
Oh, the first set of buildings, pavilions.
Okay.
And they stayed away because they didn't want to have to deal with this apprenticeship program stuff.
For the second or for the first?
For the second one, for the second bid.
So they're saying that before the second bid, there was an apprenticeship program requirement in Belmar.
Before the second bid was to be received, yes.
You're sure then?
Positive. And even if it wasn't passed, Mayor, word on the street was out. I mean, this thing went out on January 17th with the agenda. And you know what? You didn't even bring it to the workshop session. You were so sure it was going to be passed right away. And you know what? The construction industry talks to each other. And nobody wanted to bid. So we got less bidders. I think a better question is, how come we did go from a higher number to a lower number bid on the second round of buildings?
You're saying it's because there was an ordinance that limited the number of bidders.
I'm going to say it didn't limit, it removed the competition. But I'd like to know why you think it is.
I think that the more you bid a project, sometimes you'll have less people bidding on it. That's all.
The more you bid a project, the less people are going to bid.
But just so I got it right, what you're saying is we had a round of bidding for the pavilion the first time. Then you passed an ordinance that limited the number of, or limited the people who could bid. And then we went out to bid a second time, and because that ordinance was in effect, we had less bids.
Kind of, Mayor. We did send out the packets beforehand.
Which packets?
The second bid packets, or the second bids. We did ask for the bids, but we did have this in effect before we allowed the bids to be received.
Then you're sure that we had this ordinance in effect before the bids were received?
You know what, we had the first reading of it, and it was published in the Co-Star. So, I mean, it's gonna pass. And then we did not even award the bid till in May. So, you know, I mean.
We awarded the contract, right?
Awarded the contract.
But I'm just trying to follow you. So you're saying that the responsible contractor ordinance limited the number of people who bid?
It scared, well, it didn't scare. Correct, I mean, it itself is a qualifier of what you have to bid in our town. And you know, certain companies can't meet that qualifier.
No, I totally agree. I'm just trying to find out to make sure that I have.
Well, right, that alone is the reason why people walked away from this.
So they walked away because this ordinance limited who could bid.
This ordinance raised the bar of who's allowed to bid in Belmar.
Raised the bar of who's allowed to bid, and then when the bids went out, less people bid because they couldn't meet that bar.
So when the bids went out.
We went out to bid.
Well,
We asked for bids.
We asked for bids well before we started this ordinance, and I don't know what happened in between. I know on January 17th, we made it public that we're going to vote on this. And it didn't even go through the workshop session right away. It went right through the council. Of course, it passes. And construction companies talk. Word got out. And you know what, Mayor, there's a reason that, we have a significantly less amount of companies on the first than the second.
Right, and you're saying the reason why is because we had this ordinance that was in effect that raised the bar, so it limited people who bid.
You keep using those words, in effect. You know what, the whole idea that we are playing around with these ordinances in the middle of a bidding, as we're receiving bids, is enough to make any construction company walk away. And you know what? You don't believe me? Don't believe me. I'm just saying. How about this?
I'm trying to follow your logic. You're saying, I asked you why you think we should get rid of it. You said because
it limits competition, thereby raising prices.
Thereby raising prices.
Absolutely.
Raising the bar of who can bid.
It raises the qualifier that who's allowed to bid.
Correct. And you're absolutely right. It does raise that. But I just want to make sure you're saying that that's why there were less people who bid the second time than the first time.
That's one. Yes. This ordinance changing the code book is what we're got out. Nobody wants to bid on this.
And the change in the code book happened before the second round of bid.
No, Mayor. We put the bid out. We started playing with the code book, and then you even bumped the you even bumped the due date up like 3 times until the first reading was passed, and then it was even published in the Co-Star before the due dates were in. Okay. And look, now, if you want to prove my point, remove this wording, put it out for bid again, and see how many people bid. I bet you will.
And real fast, can I just read something that you wrote about this?
Sure.
Okay. This was something you put out publicly under the title "The Team to Trust," and I'll read it verbatim. Companies that bid.
Is this political? I'm just saying. I mean, we're talking about ordinance here.
This is something that was reported in the paper. Companies that bid for work in Belmar now, by statute, must either be a participant in an approved union apprenticeship and training program or pay a wage higher than the going rate. We can see how this law has affected the competitive environment for public projects in Belmar. When the previous pavilion design, the one that included a 2-story tailgate was put out to bid last year, this clause was not part of our code, and 10 companies bid for work. But then the current plan was put out to bid this year with that language now part of our code, only 3 companies sent in bids. I'll read it again. When the current plan was put out to bid this year with that language now part of our code, only 3 companies sent in bids. So it's important, right? If you're saying that the reason why we had less people bid was because this was part of our code, I don't think that's accurate.
It is, because when those bids were to be received, the first vote had already gone through, it's already been published, and we're going on the street. Why waste your time if you're not going to qualify for this? And you know what? We didn't even award this contract till May. Is this ordinance and is this code change in effect when we award the contract?
Well, let me say, if we go out to bid on something, and then bids come in, do you think we're allowed to then change the bidding process for that project?
Well, the bids didn't come in yet. We already did the first vote. Look, Mayor, I don't have the information you have. I don't know if bids came in that didn't meet our qualification and they got thrown out. All I know is that we went from 10 to 3 that have been on both buildings. And I would like to, if you're,
well, let's just go through it real fast. So we take our, because the timeline is important. So we went out to bid on 9/9/13 for the pavilion reconstruction. On 10/11/13, the bids were open. There were 10 people who bid, 10 companies that bid for that project. On 12/20/13, we went out to rebid. 12/20/13. On 2/4/14, we received.
You missed a whole bunch of dates in there. You missed January 17th. The agenda went out with 14-1 ordinance, without the journeyman's wages, by the way, was put out as agenda that the Belmar Council is going to vote on this. That's very important.
But you know that's not in effect yet, right?
It doesn't matter. because you're so sure it's gonna go through, you didn't even bring it to the workshop session. But you're putting it out there, and look, word gets out on the street, construction companies talk. Good. What about
So
January?
5 bidders come in, not 3, but 5.
Well, both buildings?
Yes.
5
Well, no,
people?
5 bidders reported,
3 bidders did both buildings.
and
And
then
we had to
Mazer, our engineering firm, looks at them and came back with us a memo on the 19th about the 3 lowest ones. But on 2-4, those bids were received.
You missed a couple other ones. You missed
On, hold on a second, let me just finish, then you can come back.
Sure.
On 2/18/14 was when this ordinance that you're saying was in effect was adopted.
And the journeyman's wages were added, by the way.
Yes, they were.
They were published in the paper on January 30th.
Right. Now, the ordinance itself didn't go into effect until March 19th. That's about 3 months after we went out to rebid. So that means it's not possible to have any effect on those bids.
Why would it add? What are we gaining? You know what, Mike? Well, you know what, Mayor, I disagree with that. We're just going to agree to disagree, because I think it's an advantage. And I think,
But you understand that it happened after the fact.
no, Mayor, I don't. You know what?
Let me give you another example. So we're doing some work in town now. You'll see them, you saw the work getting done on the water line. The work getting done on the water lines is by a company called Metro. You saw them in the winter and into the spring, and they're going to come back and do some more work. Metro was awarded that project on 12/11/13. This had no impact on it. But just by chance, they do have an apprenticeship program. So if this ordinance was in effect, they would have complied, and they are the lowest bidder. That same day, when we awarded on 12/11/13, we also awarded work to Bird Construction that's working in the marina. They too have an apprenticeship program. They too were the lowest bidder, and it was awarded to them. Now the pavilions, just like these two, where the work's still ongoing, the pavilions were bid prior to any responsible contractor language ordinance. It had no impact on it whatsoever because it happened after the fact. And the lowest bidder was Epic Construction, who is a union contractor that has an apprenticeship program. The second lowest bidder was Dobtol, D-O-B-T-O-L. The second lowest bidder is a non-union contractor. Second lowest bidder is a non-union contractor. If they were the lowest bidder, by state law, we would have had to award to them. Not whether we wanted to or not, we would have been compelled to award to them. But they weren't the lowest bidder. So the idea that there's a union versus non-union component, and the idea that this language was in effect is completely false. And it does matter. The time frame matters. I could say, you know, I'll never forget when I went to the Super Bowl with my dad and watched the Jets beat the Colts. Part of that's true. The problem is I wasn't born yet. So I can't say that. I mean, I can say it, it's just not true. For you to say that we got less bidders because this was in our code that you wrote down, which now you're changing your story a little bit, I understand that, but it was in our code, it's simply not true. It's false. Now, if you want to talk about the ordinance itself, we can talk about that as well. But just so we're all clear, this ordinance was not in effect and had no impact on the pavilions themselves. None whatsoever.
Right. I'm going to
For future projects, it will. I'll tell you, this ordinance has been in effect since March 10th. It hasn't impacted any projects. We haven't bid any projects. The last 2 projects we bid and we awarded, and we gave a notice to proceed, was the marina work and the water lining work, which again went to the lowest bidders, who at the time did happen to have apprenticeship programs. So the idea that it limits competition, now again, the timeline is just fact, it's not my opinion. But I will give you my opinion on whether it limits competition or not. And I base my opinion on a letter I received today. I'll read it for you, I'll give you a copy. This is a letter from the Associated Builders and Contractors, New Jersey chapter. Dear Mayor Doran, my name is Patrick Stewart, and I'm the chapter president of the New Jersey chapter of the Associated Builders and Contractors, ABC. The ABC is a national association representing 22,000 non-union construction and construction-related firms in 72 chapters across the United States. ABC's membership represents all specialties within the United States construction industry and is comprised primarily of firms that perform work in the industrial and commercial sectors of the industry. I am writing to you today regarding some concerning comments I have seen recently related to the Borough of Belmar's Responsible Contractor Ordinance and your residences 2014-1. Responsible contractor language in no way limit what type of contractor can bid on a project as long as it includes the provision saying that the journeyman's rate when the number of apprentices cannot be met. The language, unless the contractor or subcontractor certifies that every worker shall be paid not less than a journeyman's rate established for the apprenticeshipable trade, allows merit shop, i.e. non-union, contractors to bid this work. In fact, the language is almost identical to responsible contractor policy resolution adopted by Burlington County in 2010 that ABC supports. We ask that this language remains in the ordinance for the duration of the law. So a non-union contracting organization does not oppose this ordinance.
I don't care. I don't represent them. I represent the taxpayers of Belmar. You're missing a couple dates up there. January 17th, the agenda went out with the 2014-1 ordinance. Without the journeyman's wages, by the way. And you know what? When you read that ordinance, you know what that says? That says, that's a warning shot to all the bidders out there that are thinking about bidding in Belmar. That look what we're going to do if you try not to have an apprenticeship program, or you hire a union that doesn't match the apprenticeship program that we don't like. And you know what? When a town passes an ordinance like this, it sends a shot out to all the bidding people out there saying, look, these are the only people I want to step forward, or else we're going to keep doing stuff like this. And you might think it has no effect on anything anywhere. But people read this stuff, Mayor. People don't want to waste their time dealing with a town that keeps making laws that are restricting competition. So you know what? I want to disagree with you. I still believe that this ordinance is affecting the amount of people that are bidding on that second project, and it will continue to affect us into the future unless we remove it.
Okay, but you understand that it wasn't in effect.
Doesn't matter. You did a warning shot. January 17th, this went out. January 17th. That's when the agenda went out.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, it went out that day. But you understand, it wasn't part of our code.
It doesn't matter. It's a warning. Was there any doubt it wouldn't pass? Any doubt? No.
Well, there were changes to the language, right?
Yeah, you changed them without even running through the newspaper. At the very after everything.
We had a public hearing on it, as we do. I mean, you know how ordinances pass. First reading, after first reading, the ordinance is not in effect. You know that, right? It's after the second reading, and then it has to get published by our clerk, and then there's a 20-day wait after that. So, again, the ordinance you're saying that affected the bidding didn't go into effect for 3 months afterward. I don't want to keep repeating myself.
You just said 20 days.
It's 20 days after it's published in the newspaper by our clerk. Now, you think it limits competition?
Absolutely.
Come on.
Do you?
Mayor, we're just going to disagree. So.
No, because I think this is an important point. Because you want to rescind an ordinance that I truly believe protects taxpayers, and there are other people who also believe it protects taxpayers.
Then stand by that and stand for it. That's all you got to do. Stand by it.
Do stand by that, stand for it.
All right.
But I just want to give you another example. Both houses of the state legislature, the Assembly and the Senate, Assembly Bill A2268 and Senate Bill 307, establishes a state transportation infrastructure bank and energy bank within the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust. This was passed this year. Some of the wording in section 26. Every contract shall provide that every worker employed in the performance of that contract is an apprentice participating in a registered apprenticeship program or has completed a registered apprenticeship unless the contractor or subcontractor certifies that every worker shall be paid not less than a journeyman's rate pursuant to the apprenticeable trade performed pursuant to the Belmar. Registered apprenticeship program means an apprenticeship program which is registered with and approved by the United States Department of Labor, and which provides each trainee with combined classroom and on-the-job training under the direct and close supervision of a highly skilled worker in an occupation recognized as an apprenticeshable trade that meets the program performance standards of enrollment and graduation. 3 of the people who voted in favor of that, one of them being a co-sponsor of the bill. The co-sponsor of the bill, Republican State Assemblyman Robert Singer, and 2 members of the Assembly voted yes, Republican State Assemblyman Sean Keane and Republican State Assemblyman Dave Ryman. The language is virtually identical to what we have. And the reason why is when you're entrusted with tax dollars from the public, you need to get the best value out of it. They understand that, and we understand that.
7 million.
You may disagree with it, but it's not something unique to Belmar. Other towns have very similar ordinances. Right by us, Neptune has a very similar ordinance, so does Britain. There's about 25 municipalities and counties throughout the state of New Jersey. And now, both houses of the state legislature passed it, including the Republican representatives who represent us here in Belmar. So they think it's important to protect taxpayers. Why don't you think it's important to protect taxpayers?
Well, I just disagree, well, because, you know what, we're going to go round and round and round. Every project that goes on in this town has to put up a bond. That bond is the insurance that protects taxpayers. You don't need to raise the cost of my labor to tell me that I'm being protected now because it's going to cost me more. You know what? Just like when I hire a plumber, I don't make sure that he has an apprenticeship program to make sure that his people coming over to work are acceptable. You know what? If he doesn't do the work, well, word of mouth would tell me whether or not he's going to perform or not. But his bond payment is what is going to be my insurance. That's what protects
the municipal government. We can't rely on word of mouth.
No, the bond, there. The bond. They have to put up a performance bond, and you know that. That is your guarantee.
It's not a guarantee, that's the worst case scenario.
No, that is what's back. You just don't walk in a 7-Eleven and buy a bond. You have to build up to certain amounts. And reputable companies, the market has allowed reputable companies to get higher and higher bonds. But Mayor, you just disagree with me. I mean, it's okay.
No, I know, but this is something we discussed back in February.
Yeah, and I disagreed then, I disagree now.
Right, and I'm sort of, I guess the impetus for it to come up now is you said that it affected the number of people who bid on the pavilions, but clearly that's not accurate.
No, I guess we again disagree because you sent a warning shot out in January 17th.
Okay, guys, can I chip in here?
Oh, yeah, sure.
In my opinion, okay. I will agree that the 2 of you disagree.
Yeah. We don't want it.
I want to let you people know where I stand. I am in favor of training programs. I really do. Our police department gets trained, fire department, first aid. On a personal aspect, I've been a basketball referee for over 30 years. Each year, I have to take the state test. If I don't pass it within, I think it's like an 85 or 90 score, I don't referee. The first 2 years that you do get to be an official, you don't even get it. You don't even wear the badge. Wear a striped shirt, don't even wear a badge. You can't do a varsity game until your 6th year. Right now, because I am certified, I can do a 9-year-old basketball game and get over $40 an hour for that. For a varsity basketball game, I get $75 because I'm, quote, certified. Is that too much? Yeah, that's a lot of money. Should we be paying that much? I wouldn't want to. But that 9-year-old game, that's more challenging to the referee than a varsity game, because the varsity players know how to play. As I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when a contractor bids on a public project, he's got to include in his bid the prevailing wage. He's got to. As I understand it, our PLA guarantees that that contractor pays his laborers that prevailing wage. Call me cynical, but I think there might be some contractors out there that might bid prevailing wage and then pay less than that to his laborers and then pocket the difference.
Is that illegal?
Is it illegal? I would hope it would be illegal.
It is.
Okay, so that is my opinion. Do I approve? Do I want that contractor that's building our buildings to be trained on how to build it? Yes, I do. Does he have to be union? No, but he's got to know how to do it. Okay, and I don't want someone just giving him a hammer or a saw as he's showing up for work and just do the work. I want him to know how to do it. He's more productive if you're trained. A trained basketball official can do a game much better than someone that played college basketball and thinks he knows the rules. Okay? You have to be trained to do something properly, especially if you're going into a building. Is the prevailing wage a lot of money? Yeah, it really is. But I don't think you're going $40 for a 9-year-old basketball game. Come on. You know, I don't know what the prevailing wage is for a contractor. I don't know if they even get $40 for an hour doing something more important than basketball. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, I just want to state I've been with my company 21 years, right out of 5th grade. And I deal with vendors all the time. And they have to be on an approved vendor list. I can certainly grab anybody I want to assist me with the work that I do, but I feel it's comforting to know that we've got an approved vendor list that they've been looked into and they do the work that I want them to do and they're qualified. So is it apples to apples? Pretty much in my world, but I think it's important to have that.
And as all of you know, I'm a retired airline pilot. I'm sure everyone in this room has flown on an airplane. We all took training. We were trained prior to being at that airline. We were trained by that airline. I doubt if anyone in this room would want to get on an airplane where the guy just walked onto it, never saw it before, and took you from here to there. The same with the mechanics. They were all trained. It's the same thing here. We want the best. I don't know if, not this past Sunday, but last Sunday's Asbury Park Press had an article, 5 jobs you can get without a college degree. If you read the article, under electricians, and I'd like to read a quote, I look at the background between trade school and some kind of apprenticeship school, said Dan Neary, electrical supervisor for NJR Home Services based in Wall. NJR is the gas company over here in Wall. That says to me that he looks to see that somebody came through a training program or an apprenticeship. Along with us being responsible to our taxpayers, I think we have a lot of children in this town also. We need to be responsible to those children. We want them to be able to get good jobs as they get older and become property owners here in this town or another town. Being a woman, if I had not been a union member, I would not have made the same money that my counterparts that were male were making. And I think that's important also.
Well, I don't think we're arguing whether apprenticeship programs are good or bad. We're arguing whether the taxpayer of Belmar should be paying higher fees to make sure that every company we hire has one.
Well, do you think apprenticeship programs are good or bad?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm not voting on it.
We don't want it.
Nothing.
I'm sorry, Frank. Who just shouted? Do it again, and the chief's going to remove you. It's a public meeting, it's not your,
This is about this ordinance language. That's all we're voting on here. It doesn't matter, I mean, I want union, I want non-union, I want everybody to bid, but you can't do it with this language in our code book.
Jim, what would you change? How would you phrase it?
Right back to the way it was in January.
so you think anyone and everyone should be able to bid on the jobs in Belmar?
They can afford the bond, but you just can't buy at 7-Eleven.
Anyone and everyone should be able to bid on jobs.
And I just said it once, I say it again.
Whoever get a bond should be able to bid in Belmar.
You can get a bond high enough. You know, I mean,
How high should the bond?
you know what, Mary? You guys set the bond rate, the town does. Come on.
Well, I would just like to know that the people that we hire do the job, know how to do the job. I mean, sometimes the lowest bidder is the worst person they get. We've experienced that.
Stick with your topic, let's move on. Okay, you guys don't want to change it, I got it.
Think about it this way, and you know, when you own your home, right, you can use common sense. We can't in a municipal government. So let's say you're looking to put a new roof on, and you get 3 bids, and one bid is 20,000, one bid's 19,000, and one bid is 2,000. And without knowing anything about Belmar, without knowing anything about those companies, you would say, well, we're not going to use the one that's saying they can do for 2,000. We don't have that ability. We have to take the lowest bidder.
You know what, Mayor, that's not true, because the engineering firm can go through and say, these guys are not qualified, and that's not
And do you
true.
think we get sued after that?
You know what, no, I think the engineering firm can.
And then we get sued. So, let's, I think you're right, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Again, this is something we discussed back in February. We did modify the language to ensure that both union and non-union contractors can bid on this. All that we're saying is that they have to have a bare minimum of skill set to accomplish the job. I believe it protects taxpayers. I believe it would have protected us in other instances as well. I know, and Mike could attest, that we had to throw contractors off who were here during Sandy because they just were not capable of doing the work even though they told us they were.
They're suing us, aren't
they? But they got thrown off because they couldn't do the work. And you know, I think that this is something that, again, protects taxpayers. It's not a union versus non-union issue. I understand that people try to make a boogeyman out of unions and say that they're driving up the cost. It's simply not true. You know, we just believe that if you're going to receive Belmar taxpayer dollars, you should have a bare amount of skills so that we know you can accomplish the job. So let's move on. Next is our Lake Como updates. I remember our last council meeting, we had our engineering firm go out and come up with designs that we needed to accomplish that were solely in the borough of Belmar. We didn't, you know, we wanted to get some feedback as to what folks wanted to see. Out of the 2 designs, it seemed like there was more of a move towards the pipe as opposed to the culvert. We also, when our engineering firm looked at it, it seems like it's feasible through a DEP permitting process to do a pipe as opposed to a culvert. So I'll let our engineer Paul Calabrese come up and talk about it.
Thank you, Mayor. How you doing? This is, I guess, an update on Lake Como drainage improvements. I figured for the people that weren't here, the ones that, you know, technical information, I thought I'd run over the beginning of the presentation again, just to rehash. As you can see, this shows, the blue line shows the drainage area. Any drop of water that lands within that blue line lands into Lake Como. And as you can see, it encompasses the borough of Lake Como, borough of Belmar, borough of Spring Lake, borough of Spring Lake Heights, and Wall Township. So there is a portion of property for each of those municipalities that empties into Lake Como. What we talked about last time, we talked about the storm levels and you know, what happens during a certain storm The storm that, we would like to design around, the storm we try to design around on all stormwater jobs is a 25-year storm. And a 25-year storm, just to give a frame of reference, 6.5 inches of rain within 24 hours. And also to give you a frame of reference, I put down what happened in, recent major storm events. Hurricane Irene, 5.19 inches. Hurricane Sandy, which was very little rain, but obviously the issue was the water coming from the ocean, the surge. And then the storm that just happened in July, where 5.4 inches that occurred in 48 hours. That's just the information that we had. Utilizing a model that shows what would happen if this lake was drained prior to the storm with a 60-inch pipe. You would bring the road up to 6.3. And as you can see, the roads will flood at elevation 5, where private properties are higher, and that private property flood will not start till elevation 6.3. So this matrix just shows what different size pipes with what your storm and what would happen. And just to reiterate, the existing outfall does vary in size. It has been repaired, but it is effectively a 30-inch pipe. So roads will flood during the 10-year storm, and as we've seen, private properties will flood during the 25-year storm event. The proposed future outfall improvements, this is where we have changed from our last presentation. As we brought up last time, we have two alternates, the box culvert that discharged onto the beach, and the pipe that discharged out about 250 feet out into the ocean. We discussed with NJDEP land use and dam safety, and both branches of the DEP stated that due to impacts to water quality, shellfish impacts, and the public beach access, which is part of their rules, the pipe outfall is the preferred construction method by those agencies. So based on that, we went in that direction for our next steps. The 60-inch outfall will alleviate private property flooding. And 60 inches is a number we came up with, as a starting point, as it is the largest diameter ductile iron pipe that can be purchased. Once you get over a 60-inch pipe, you have to use different type of pipe materials, similar to like what they did at Rec Pond, and the prices get a lot more costly. And ductile iron is a preferable pipe type to go out into that environment. The pipe would be constructed at beach level, so that would minimize impact to people, similar to all the other outfalls. You see the borough of Belmar, where you'll see the structure sticking out. When the beach erodes a little, you'll see the top of the pipe, but the pipe will be below the beach, mostly. And then the outfall extension will limit the water quality impacts. Any sort of water quality issues that is in the lake, or that comes from a heavy rainstorm, or floatables or fertilizers get in the lake, that will be shot offshore as opposed to right at the beach, where you are swimming or utilizing. This one's obviously tough to see on here, but I just wanted to give a visual as best as I can. I know it's tough to read on the screen. The yellow line shows the red line is better, I'm sorry. The red line shows the current situation in a 25-year storm. In a 25-year rain event, if the lake is drained before the rainstorm with the existing 30-inch pipe, that red line shows where the flood waters will go to. As you can see, a lot of homes are impacted. Water will be into the properties. The yellow line shows the impact of the same 25-year storm once the 60-inch outfall pipe is in place and operating properly. As you can see, the properties are eliminated from the model, but there still is potential for flooding in the roadways.
But it limits it to the roadway.
Limits to the roadways and not into the private homes. Permitting requirements. This is a large undertaking on a permit scale. Ocean Avenue, between Lake Como and the Atlantic Ocean, has been declared a dam by the DEP. As such, a permit will be required from the Bureau of Dam Safety. A safe timeline for that permit is 6 months, and there is no anticipated permit fee from Dam Safety. The property that the proposed outfall will go through on Lake Como is on the Belmar Green Acres roster. It is a funded park. That means that we would require approval from the DP Green Acres. There is no fee for that approval, but that is another process. Land use permitting, CAPRA permits required, waterfront development permits required for the work in the water. and a freshwater wetlands permit is required for the new outlet structure that's going to be constructed in the lake. Again, that permit timeline is about 6 months, and the permit fee is estimated at about $30,000. The Division of Water Quality from the DP is another permit as a new outflow discharge requires for the gypsies permit. Again, this timeline is about 2 months, and the estimated permit fee is $500. The final permit that we think is required at this time is the Army Corps of Engineers permit. An individual permit is required, probably to extend the outfall into the ocean. This permit timeline is 6 months plus, as there is no deadline. They're not subject to any dates and deadlines like the DEP is to issue a permit. There is no permit fee though from the Army Corps of Engineers.
Well, what are they doing for their $30,000?
Yeah. It's a fee table, and the fee is based on the construction cost. That's just how CAFRA, and that's just, we felt this alert, there's a fee chart that tells you how much the fee is.
So they really don't do anything. They just collect the $30,000 because we're doing.
There's a review. We're going to have to complete a.
But the other people are charging us next to nothing, and they're, $30,000. It's all going to be the same reviews, correct?
Well, it's a different review process. Land use permitting is checking to make sure you're protecting the shellfish habitat. You're going to have to do certain reports to show that you're not doing many adverse impacts to the environment.
Do they have an apprenticeship program? I don't want to buy up there.
just for the clans.
I'm just kidding. That was just a joke.
That was funny. I laughed.
So after the meeting last time, we discussed a couple options. This is the first one that was presented last time, where the pipe and structure is solely on Belmar property. That dotted line at the bottom there, that shows that the boundary line between Belmar and Spring Lake, and that dotted line does imaginarily extend into the ocean past the mean high water line. So this shows the 16-inch outfall pipe, and it shows where it's located based on, when we had the public meeting last time, this impacts an area where beachgoers currently sit in Belmar. This would be a direct line that would be in an area that is a beach, but I'm under the impression it's not as heavily utilized by beachgoers. However, as you can see, it does cross into the Spring Lake property, so a easement or right away of some sort would be required from Spring Lake for this construction. Cost for both is the same. As you can see, the cost is very high. It's not a small undertaking. The costs that we've developed here came from utilizing numbers that we had received on the outfall that was installed at Wreck Pond. Was that 6 years ago? That outfall was an 84-inch outfall. This one is a 60-inch outfall. We adjusted accordingly, but the numbers we utilized was based on their costs, and that's how we came to these numbers. Obviously, as we go forward, on my own personal opinion, I hope it comes down. I think one way it can come down is the length of the pipe into the ocean. We estimated 250 feet actually in the ocean, 275 includes between the tide lines, based on what Wreck Pond is. However, if we have better water quality, that is something that when we send our permits in, is something we discussed with the DEP about shortening that outfall length. And that would obviously, as you can see, that is a large portion of the cost, and hopefully that would save some of the money.
Any questions from the council?
When you drain it into the ocean and you have a storm, what's going to prevent the sand buildup? I mean, we've had that kind of outfall pipe at Silver Lake, and over the years it filled up with sand, and during the storms it got damaged. And
this pipe, again, if you look at the one out at Wreck Pond, this pipe will be on steel piles. It will have a concrete cradle. It's a large diameter pipe. On this pipe, it doesn't show on the plan, but the intention is we will put a relief on the top of the pipe as well. So in the event that the end of the pipe is covered over, the top of the pipe will discharge. It's not as ideal, because it's at a higher elevation, but it's a good backup relief. The pipe needs to obviously be inspected on a regular basis. It's just the best method based on the location. There's no other direction to go with the pipe.
How deep underwater, at, let's say, low tide, will this pipe be? I'm concerned about boaters.
Oh, on this pipe, what I am certain the DP, this would go through. DP Coastal will get involved, in Army Corps. They will, I'm pretty certain, require it's called a light, like a buoy, I guess it's called, at the end of the pipe. Again, if you go out to Red Pond, you'll see that lattice that shows where that pipe is, so people don't leak it. All new pipes are going to require to notify the boaters there is a utility. It shows at -8 out there at the way end tip, so that will be, it's 5 foot -3, so it's not much below the water. So a boat would hit it. The lower you go into the water, the higher chance you have of sand getting into it as you go up.
All right. Well, if we don't mind, let's let Paul head out. Paul's actually missing back to school night tonight, so we apologize and appreciate the fact that you're here with us. Thanks, Paul. And does any members of the council have questions for Director Campbell on DPW related issues? If not, Mike, you want to take off. I know your family's celebrating with your son, so.
You guys did a real good job with the landscaping over there at Lake Como. I think it looks nice, much better than last year or the year before. Kudos to Kevin and Sal for the work they did.
Yep, thank you. Next is our open space hearing. Did we do this last time?
Well, we did do this last time. Last time we had a public hearing during this portion of workshop to talk about our application to NJDEP for grant funding for a new McCleary Park configuration. As part of our promise to chase every possible dollar available, we're also submitting a grant application to Monmouth County Open Space in hopes of garnering some money through them. It's not as big of a granting arm. They don't have much money to grant, but no amount of grant is too small for us to chase. So I have here boards that I can try to advance a little bit for members of the public to see. These are the same boards that we used last month's public hearing for Green Acres. I'm going to read a little statement, and then if anybody would like to comment on the design, they're very welcome to.
All right, so are we having a public hearing on this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is open to the public about an application for a grant through DEP.
Sure. A notice of this hearing was placed in the August 29th edition of the Coast Star. The end result of this project, after all phases have been complete, will be a redeveloped park with repairs to replace park and recreational facilities, a new boardwalk and bulkhead, which were damaged by Superstorm Sandy. The project will reorientate the parking area and park facilities to make better use of the parking spaces and provide additional recreational facilities to serve the needs of the community. Just as an overall view of it, our funding application to Monmouth County is for $250,000, which would subsidize approximately 50% of the first phase of the project. The first phase of the project would be installation of new tennis courts, installation of new bocce ball courts, and renovation of the restroom facilities. The remainder of the project is quite extensive. It involves the installation of 2 additional playgrounds, a spray park, replacement of the bulkhead, refurbishing of the parking area, landscaping, bollards, lighting, drainage, utilities, things of that sort.
Right. And also, since Sandy, our DPW has done a very good job putting down the path. It's not the permanent thing that is going to go there, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to do a permanent path if we're going to tear it up and put it in the bulkhead. But 2 other items that you'll see down there. One is already in place, and those are steps going into the river from the ferry park. They have a little diver down flag. They're not just for divers, they're for everyone, but that's the diver down flag. But we're also going to put steps towards the southern part, sort of off of Oakwood, if you think about it. That would also go straight down to what is sometimes a beach, depending on the tide. Because we have a request for that as well. So there'll end up being two entrances, two steps going down into the Shark River from Cleary Park. I believe DPW is going to start working on that maybe tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
But the one set's complete, the other one we'll do it on our own. But any public comments, questions on this?
David Schneck, 302 C Street. The last meeting you brought this up, there was a mention of made of a low interest loan also. Is that still in the works?
That's the previous hearing. That's
It was from a clear, right?
Yeah, this is, as I mentioned, this is another grant that we are applying for in addition to the one we applied for last.
When we go out for these grants, we have to have a public hearing of this, more formality than anything else, but it doesn't, one doesn't.
It's also going to involve borrowing to do all these big plans, right?
Yeah. Capital improvements usually stay with borrowing.
Yeah, I just want to make the point that, when you borrow money, it enables you to live, beyond your means today, in exchange for living below your means in the future. So, I think we've done a lot of living beyond our means, and I think, the bulkhead, of course, has to be fixed, and anything regarding safety, but I just don't want to see us borrowing any more money until we pay off some of the debt we have. Thank you.
Any other public comments, questions on this?
That's critical.
I don't see the place on here where there's no airplane planes that we've done.
These are older pictures.
Yeah, this design was sketched prior to a very generous donation that is in process of installation right now. Very excited, but we're very confident we can work the placement into this design.
It's sort of going to go right back where the playground. All right, so now else, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on the pavilion. Any questions on this? Public hearing of this open space here. Public portion of open space.
Right.
That's it for our workshop.
Looks like, actually, Mayor, one more thing. Yeah, workshop. This is just the same thing I brought up last workshop about not allowing outside dining that abuts residential zone. I just want to, again, as it's underlined at the very bottom, is the add one. And you had said last meeting that you would look at it and get back to me. So I'm just, again, raising this. I believe this would be a good idea in our town. Just a thought. I want to hear everybody else's thought.
We did bring it up at the planning board meeting last month, and the members of the planning board were, not against it, not necessarily for it. They wanted to hear a little bit more about it, a little bit more discussion.
Okay.
So next planning board meeting. Yeah, it's something that I don't think we have to rush into it right now, since basically the outdoor dining is coming to an end for the season.
Okay.
But we want to certainly address it before next year.
Thank you, Council President. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else for workshop? Nope. All right. Next, any petitions for the mayor and council? Any petitions? Just name and address, Lori.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here he is.
Louder.
Joy DeSanctis, 101 6th Avenue. This petition is coincidentally on 2014-01, and it is asking that you remove the language of any bidder having to participate in the U.S. Department of Labor Bureau of Apprenticeship and Training. And also remove the language that says that we will have to pay a journeyman's wages. It was signed by 418 people. I think many of the people in this room today feel that this is unnecessary language. Most unions have their apprenticeship programs. This is a secondary apprenticeship program. And certainly, what Brian, you mentioned something tonight about the journeyman's rate that they have to be paid. So if they don't belong to an apprenticeship program, as long as they're paid at a journeyman's rate, what about all the skill sets then? That it seems to make no sense. So it's okay to pay them at a journeyman's rate if they don't belong to the apprenticeship program. So that it doesn't matter then if they have any skills, if they're a union or anything. Just we'll pay them higher. That's okay. We don't care about their skills. That's what it says in this. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, that was actually language that non-union folks wanted to add. They wanted to make sure that this was both applied to both union and non-union. Because there are some very good contractors out there that are non-union.
Absolutely.
And they pay the prevailing wage like they're supposed to. And we want to make sure that they're included in bidding the projects in Belmar.
But you're not asking them to pay prevailing wage. You're asking them to pay journeyman's wage, which is higher than prevailing wage. You're asking them to pay journeyman's wage to an apprentice.
Well, it's not to an apprentice. Yeah, it is.
Well, it is to an apprentice.
No, it's not. It is.
It doesn't specify that it's.
It says, I'll just read real fast.
Okay.
The provision of satisfactory evidence by the bidding entity is that it provides or participates in an apprenticeship and training program approved and registered with the U.S. Department of Labor's Bureau of Apprenticeship and Training, as well as a benefit configuration being no less than required under the state, under the New Jersey Prevailing Wage Act, or the bidder certifies that they will not pay less than the journeyman's rate as defined by the New Jersey Prevailing Wage Act, are minimally required to demonstrate that the bidding entity is responsible.
But that means that you will pay at the journeyman's rate every worker, whether or not.
Some will get paid more than that.
Well, if they should be paid more than that, that's fine. Right. But if it's a first day apprentice on the job, we certainly are not going to pay them journeyman's wages.
If they don't have an apprenticeship program.
If they don't have an apprenticeship program, that's what the language in here says. So at a minimum, I would hope that.
Oh, sorry, we should second the petition.
But I see what you're saying. That might be a grammatical correction that.
I would just hope that this council really gives this consideration. We do not want to go to referendum on this. 418 people signed this. It's critically important. Only other two municipalities have this language in their ordinances. Only two. It is true.
There's many, just for the record, there are many towns and several counties that have it. Thank you for your petition. Next item is reports. It's a long meeting. Reports of Mayor and Council.
I'll be quick. Okay. The beach report. Season's over. Labor Day came and gone. And our total beach receipts for 2014 as of today, $3,137,070.60. I want to know where the 60 cents is. And that was about $254,000 more than last year. So we had a very good summer season. In late August, actually middle of August, Silver Lake was stocked by the Division of Fish and Wildlife. They put in, yes, this is the correct number, 1,222 fish. I asked the guy, are you sure it's not 1,223? He goes, no, 1,222 fish. They put in 3 kinds of fish. They put in perch, largemouth bass, and some catfish. And it'll take about 2 or 3 years for them to grow and to where they're going to be a size where you can really go fishing. However, now Silver Lake is a designated freshwater lake. which means any of you adults that want to go fishing, you better have a license, because the warden will go by and he will write you a ticket. Anybody under 16 can fish without a license, but any adults now at Silver Lake, you'll need a license. Mayor, you mentioned about the diving steps at Silver Lake, at the river, south of the tennis courts. They've already been used. You go down there and you see the divers are already using them, so that went well. L Street Beach this summer, and we're talking about the beachfront did so well. L Street Beach was constant action. I mean, there was something going on all the time. Swimmers, crabbers, stand-up paddlers, kayakers. Really, it became a destination place for people that didn't want to go to the beach and have an alternative site. So that went really well. We did, in August, Colleen and I had a conference call with several other towns and the Division of Department of Transportation, Senator Beck, Freeholder Arnone, about the dredging for the river. And the river certainly needs to be dredging. And a little disappointed because we did have offer an option of south of McLeary Park, bulkheading an area and putting some of the dredge material from our marina into there and kind of building like a little island or something like that. And they thumbs down on that because it was wetlands area. So we have to come up with a dry land, correct? And I don't know where we're going to find dry land around the marina to put our dredge materials or mud from the river to dredge it. It's just like no can do. But I thought that was a good alternative. They didn't. So that's where we were at that. I just want to talk Charlie Volker from Rumston Fairhaven, grandson of Tom Volker. At the end of this football season, he's going to be trading in his purple and white Rumston Fairhaven uniform for the orange and black of Princeton next year. Very good.
That's where I went.
Just like his grandfather.
Just like his grandfather. Okay, very good. That's my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Keon Blackburn.
It is National Prostate Month. This past weekend, I'm sure you know that the library celebrated its 100th birthday. I unfortunately was not there, but I understand it was a wonderful time. And the Kite Festival on the beach was really fantastic on Sunday. And I am very proud to live in a town that supports someone like Surfers Healing that was on the beach this weekend. That was absolutely wonderful. It's nice to see the thank yous on the sign on Route 35. The thank yous are for the restaurants that support the senior luncheons. It mentions right now the Windmill, Federico's, and Bar A, which is not even here in Belmar. The new playground at McLeary Park was spoken of just a few minutes earlier. Several of the pieces are there getting ready to be placed. I was so excited I stopped and took pictures yesterday. I understand that it should take them about 2 weeks, depending on weather, to put everything together. So we'll all look forward to an opening and ribbon cutting, hopefully later this month. Upcoming events, this Thursday morning at 11 a.m., there will be a memorial service at the senior building here in town for the 9/11 memorial. So please stop by. There will be refreshments served afterwards inside the senior building. The Belmar Women's Club, who does support Belmar here, has card parties a couple of times a month for different activities and to raise money so they can give it to Belmar. So the 2 card parties in September will be the 12th and the 19th. The one on the 19th is for the Education Committee, and this year the Women's Club gave 3 scholarships to children here in Belmar that are heading off to college. The senior luncheon is the 24th at 11 a.m. in the gym. Flu shots will be given, and the Monmouth County Sheriff's Department will be there, not to arrest everybody, but to give photo IDs and with the adult ident program. And lastly, My health fair is the 28th in the gym. I hope everyone attends. It's from 11 until 3. A little bit different this year, along with all of the tables, with all of the information, there will be 7 individuals who will be speaking at different times about their companies and about different health issues. Along with all of the tables and the talks, the Central Jersey Blood Bank will be here to accept donations of blood, not money. Please bring a non-perishable food item for our Council of Churches for their food banks that all remain here in Belmar. And flu shots will be available there also. If you're on Medicare, it's free. If you have insurance, most insurances will be accepted. And if you don't have any insurance, it'll be $14.99. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Dean.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have 2 statements. Number one, now that the referendum is over, I'd like to stress that I hope the mayor does the right thing and takes the buy more money and puts it towards the boardwalk first chance he can to pay down our bond on that. And number 2, the 10th Avenue Pavilion, I still don't even know what the inside layout looks like. Please, Mayor, put up all the plans for the 10th Avenue Pavilion online, including the inside, so we can see them. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nicolak.
The Belmar Elementary School had a very successful school opening with 539 students in attendance. Back to school night is Tuesday, September 16th at 6:30. However, the PTO will have a book fair prior to that at 5:30. Please stop in and purchase some books to support them. Part of this year's initiatives will be preparing those students and teachers for the new upcoming park assessments in spring 2015. Parent information nights will be held throughout the year to assist parents in better understanding the expectations of the park assessment and the Common Core standards. For Belmar Recreation, the basketball registration is going to be the 15th, which is a Monday, 18th and 24th from 6 to 7:30, and then Saturday the 27th from 9:30 to 11 a.m. My kids both participate for many years now, and it's a great program, so please get registered. DPW, always busy, Mike had left, but they removed the playground and prepped for the new playground in the Cleary Park. They built the new recreational steps at the Cleary Park. They did the landscaping of the grounds at Lake Como. Assisted setup and breakdown for the autism surface healing, which was tremendous. I watched for hours and hours, and I did shed a few tears, but it was wonderful. And I had some friends whose children were part of it, and I've never seen faces light up. It was wonderful. So thank you for everybody involved. Street line painting continues, brush pickup and meter reading completed, benches placed on boardwalk, sweeping, and all other activities continue as usual. I always like to read DPW because every single day they're out there and they really, really work hard, no matter what the weather, what the job, so I know I stress on that a lot. The Belmar BVP, you know me, I want to congratulate them on a successful kite festival. It was great. I don't know if anybody actually went down to it. I hope you did, because it was tremendous to see from a distance, but when you stood under it, it was magnificent. And it was free of charge, there was no charge, and they will be back next year. So thank you, BVP. And their last cruise night will be September 18th with the Classic Cars, and that's a Thursday. So please join them for that. And last but not least, we are having a town bonfire and beach party. It's October the 18th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. on 2nd Ave. There's going to be hot dogs, s'mores, bonfire, and music. It's BYOC, bring your own chair. I like it, BYOB. It's free to all Belmar residents, and we want to thank DJs. They are picking up all of the food for the event. And if you have any questions, please contact Kelly Williams in our office.
I think both Councilman Dean and I will talk about. I will say, Councilman Dean, the plans are online inside. They're on the website. The issue is they're so large that if you try to email them, you just can't.
I'm sorry, the inside of 10th Avenue layout?
The layout. It's only one floor.
It's two-story building.
It's one story. It's just got the thing in the middle. But again, we can direct it where to go, but it's too long. I mean, even one page, however these things are scanned in by nature. But it's on. One of the events that someone does all by himself, which I advocate for everyone to participate in, is on September 11th, across the street from the Dunkin' Donuts on Ocean Avenue, right where the boardwalk is, a whole bunch of people meet and run south into Spring Lake. Belmar resident Tim Mahoney came up with this idea. Now, you don't have to run. You can just come for the beginning, show your support. Taylor Hardware supplies small American flags. It's a pretty simple ceremony. We read out the names of folks in Mountain County who perished on September 11th. So again, you don't have to run, but please come to it. I believe it's at 6 o'clock. Again, that will be this Thursday on Ocean Avenue, Ocean 16. See a large people, 6 p.m. 6 p.m. You'll see a large gathering of people. And again, it's not a borough event. It's just someone in town who does it on his own, and it's grown year after year. One interesting rumor out there that we need to put to rest: beer hall. I was misquoted by a Wall Street Journal reporter saying that there was a beer hall coming to Belmar and Ocean Avenue. I've said the word beer and I've said the word hall. I've never said them together in my life. What I explained to him was that we had a lot of investment on Main Street in our commercial area, and one of the investments is a new microbrewery where Friedman's was, and that's going to be opening up. But there are no beer halls coming to Belmar. I'm not even sure what a beer hall would look like. I imagine something from the roaring 20s, maybe. But just in case you hear it out there, you know, no petitions on beer halls, please. There is no beer hall coming. Also, one of the issues we're dealing with now, and we're trying to figure out how we work with the state on this, is there's a landlord in town who's looking to rent out their house as a halfway house. They've been certified by DCA to do so, and it would be for folks that are coming out of recovery. And it's on 17th Avenue, and it's very close to the beach. I don't know if I can necessarily give the address, but the folks in that area that know where it is are well aware of it already. We're going to pursue our legal avenues regarding this property, but it looks like it's something that would have to be addressed on a state level, not so much on a local level. But certainly this is not something we're looking to have in our community. It does nothing to enhance our community. We have serious concerns about it. We're going to try to take every legal avenue possible to prevent it. But again, our initial assessment is it's something that occurs on a state level, and municipalities like ours are somewhat powerless to prevent it. But I know there may be some people here tonight that have questions about that. If they want, I'll stay afterwards and discuss it a bit, because I know there are folks that live right next door or very close to it that have serious concerns. And if I was them, I would too. And I think all of us would. So that's all for me. Next are our resolutions. I'm sorry, approval of minutes.
That's me. Sorry, Adrian. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on August 5th, 2014 be approved as reported, and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
Second.
Councilwoman Blackburn? Yes. Councilman Gover?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Yes. Next is public session on the resolution calendars. Just on resolution calendar, if you have a comment or question you'd like to make, please raise your hand when you call. Come up to the front, the microphone, state your name, address, for the record. Yes, sir.
12, 15, resolution awarding the contract for consulting services is kind of vague. And I was just asking the question what the building and business administrators needs is in assistance. What would be the duties of the consultant? What is the consultant's expertise to provide those duties? And where the monies, the $24,000, is coming from the budget?
Sure. The consultant, her name is Megan Dowling. She's currently a consultant. We hired her, we brought her on as a consultant back in March. So what we're doing is renewing her for another 6 months. Her primary responsibilities is to deal with anything and everything related to FEMA, both on the public assistance side, which means working with the CFO and PA, but also with families. Just to give you an idea, the last 6 months she's worked with 136 families. We've had $1.8 million in funding awarded, and 26 of the families have approved for funding and awarded checks already. There are 20 additional families pending and are likely to be approved. So we didn't want to hire someone full-time for the next 20 to 25 years. You know, we believe it's important to operate the municipal government like a business. So if we have short-term needs, we want to hire someone for, not hire, but bring them on as consultant for a short-term solution to that problem. And the nice thing, because we have, I think, possibly the most creative business administrator in America, 90% of the expense is actually reimbursable by FEMA. One of the things FEMA allows is, one of the things they allow is if you're doing work, putting together project worksheets for them, getting the invoices, the receipts, is tons of stuff. All the, you know, we spent a significant amount of money over the last almost 24 months cleaning up after Sandy. She helps put all that together, and her time for that is actually reimbursable as well. So 90% of it is reimbursable.
So this consulting services, the fees for $4,000 a month, 90% of it be paid by FEMA?
Right. So the other 400, we're on hook for it. And remember, she's a 1099 consultant, so there's no benefits, no benefits, there's no pension. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
And at the end of 6 months, we move on. Now, if we need her again, and we're in the same situation, but you know, we think we'll be in a we'll be further along with FEMA. We're still chasing money and get through the process. But at the end of the day, they have money, and they do reimburse us for our expenses.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Yes, Mike.
Just a quick one. Good evening, Minority Council. Mike Seaver, 110 Avenue.
Madison, sir.
Just two quick questions. On the tonight's payment of bills, there's another $131,000 from Mazer for the water and sewer project. You know, from what I've seen in Mazer bills and stuff like that, is there any point where the council feels that it would be good to reevaluate how we're handling engineering? It seems like engineering is very expensive in this town.
I don't disagree. Engineering is very expensive.
Okay.
You know, Mike, years ago, we did hire an engineer in-house, and I guess it just didn't work out because there's so many aspects to engineering that by having a company like Mazer, you can go to a civil engineer, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, you know, whereas one person just really can't do all the engineering work that is required throughout the town. So we did try it years ago.
I just said the council look into that. It seems like, you know, amounts like that are pretty much monthly. The other one I have is real quickly, the Klein & Company, $44,000 for auditing. Is that a customary amount? That seems, again, like a pretty substantial figure for an audit. I honestly don't know, so I'm asking. $44,000 to...
It's in line with what we budgeted.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much.
We all should have been attorneys and auditors, and engineers.
And journeyman.
Seeing that, I'll
have a question about the resolution on special events.
Let me just close the public portion.
Why don't you do that? Aye.
I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman McGovern?
Okay, on the special event, there's this coming up are 2 water events, and I see where the Special Events Committee told the organizers to reach out to our Belmar lifeguards or to the Belmar Water Rescue Team. I just want to make sure that our liability of Belmar is not compromised, because I don't want the organizers advertising that it's going to be safer, you know, or if the lifeguards, they're not going to be paid by us. They're not going to be using our equipment, I wouldn't think. I just don't want our liability in case something happens at these 2 water events for us to get into trouble if something happens.
Excellent point. What I can tell you is that we certainly collect all applicable insurance information from the event hosts. We do take into consideration events that incorporate, water races or anything of that sort, either in the ocean or in the river. What we do is sometimes we do employ lifeguards that the borough pays for and the vendor reimburses us. These 2 cases, actually, they have a standing relationship with Belmar Water Rescue. And so Belmar Water Rescue will be on hand to assist if they provide a donation to Belmar Water Rescue in exchange for that service. But we still comply with all aspects of collecting insurance information, ensuring that the public safety department signs off on the event and things of that nature.
I just don't want the participants thinking that it's the Belmar Beach Patrol in full force, because it's happening later in the month. And quite honestly, during the summer, we talk about a beach patrol. Those guys have to work out every day. So you may go 3 or 4 weeks without going in the water, and that lifeguard being there, he's not going to be in prime shape to make a rescue. He may not have all the equipment that he would have during the beach or the backup. And I just don't want the participants reading on their sheet of paper, oh wow, Belmar lifeguards are there, Belmar Water Rescue, which would increase our liability if something does go wrong. Okay. Very good.
All right, I'll offer a move resolution authorizing
Second?
Councilman Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Did you remove Slavola from this by chance?
I believe Stavola is on there.
We'll step off.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Yes. Next resolution I recuse myself for.
Now it's my turn. I offer, anybody here, how do you even say that? I don't even listen to that. Okay. I offer the resolution permitting the special permits for social affairs for the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh.
Councilman Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Offer a move for adoption of the consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to remove the contract for consulting services.
All right, I'll second your motion to remove the resolution awarding contract for consulting services.
Councilman Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Yes. I'll offer the resolution awarding contract for consulting services.
Second?
Councilman Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
It's the first time I've heard that she's being paid by FEMA. I think we're going to use this excuse for the next 5 years that FEMA's going to cover it, FEMA's going to cover it. I don't know if she's being paid by FEMA or not. I saw the numbers, and it looked like we were done. Either way, I don't think we need more help down there. I think we got plenty of capable employees. I'm voting no.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Yes. I will now offer the consent agenda.
Second?
Councilman Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Yes. Next are ordinances. Second reading, public hearing. The first ordinance is ordinance 2014-15, ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 27, beachfront marine regulations, revised general ordinance of the Borough of Belmar and the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, section 18-3, waterways and watercraft. This ordinance is open for public hearings. Anyone have any comments, questions on just this ordinance? Raise your hand, would be called, come up to the microphone. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'll offer a move for adoption, ordinance 2014-50.
Councilman Kilgore?
Yes, I feel that I should say first, I feel that we made a mistake when we didn't include LSP, so yes.
Councilman Kilgore?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Darrell?
Yes. Next, second reading, public hearing, ordinance 2014-16, ordinance amending chapter 40. We go, developing regulations of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of Belmar, section 40-7.8. So open for public comment. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, sorry. Yes.
James Belmar, 4th Avenue. Actually, Mayor Gardner, maybe a little bit of explanation of how this proposed change to the borough's land use ordinance came about.
We have very few properties where someone has two conforming lots adjacent, facing the same street. So, you know, 411 and 413 Fifth Avenue. And the house is on one and the other one is vacant. And they want to put, let's say they want to put a pool. Typically, you have to go before the Board of Adjustment. You have to notify your neighbors in the area, you have to get the sign, you have to spend a decent amount of money, plus you get an attorney, and then go before the board, ask for the permission. What this does is it just allows you to use that property. That's, again, it's got to be adjacent, facing the same street. Trying to make it easier for people to use their car.
I guess I understand that. However, what's proposed here is modification to the borough ordinance that says no accessory building shall be constructed before the principal building. And then it goes on, except for, and this is the proposed change, except for above ground and in-ground pools constructed on an immediately adjacent property to the principal building, provided that both share the same street frontage. I mean, what this really is something that's rather unique. In other words, this is a special interest modification to the zoning ordinance to accommodate a special situation. Really, something like this could have been, and quite truthfully, I don't see anything in the existing ordinance that prevents what you just explained there. In other words, there's nothing in the ordinance that says that you can't put a pool in.
I wish you could, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me either, but that's why we're changing it so that it can. Otherwise, if it was permitted, then we wouldn't be making this change.
What I'm saying, was this a result of the zoning officer making a decision saying that you need to have the ordinance changed? In other words, did he apply for a construction permit, and got denied by the zoning officer? I mean, how did this end up being a request to modify the zoning ordinance?
Some constituent brought to my attention. We made changes before based on people's suggestions. So this is just a change based on suggestions.
Yeah, I guess what actually this person that wanted to do this would have been, and this was introduced over a month ago. 2 months ago now, I guess. The point being is that this could have been just as easily handled by just writing a letter to the zoning board, asking for an interpretation as to whether a variance was required. And that is not a public hearing. Of course, the zoning board could have just easily responded back after discussing it at a public meeting that it was an allowable use. In other words, I believe somebody misinterpreted the zoning ordinance and perhaps said that we needed some sort of variance. But that sort of interpretation would have required, if you wanted to put a flagpole, which is an accessory structure in your front yard, that you would have needed a zoning ordinance. Point being is that I think that this actually should not have bubbled up here to the mayor and council, unless it was directed here by the zoning board or the planning board. Okay? And this gets to be something that taxpayers pay. This could have been, I think, done if it was just directed right to the zoning board as an interpretation of the zoning board. Thank you.
Thanks. Any comments, questions on this ordinance?
I wasn't aware this ordinance was on. These comments, I'm sorry, Kenneth Pringle, 203 First Avenue. Gene's questions actually kind of raised the, I'm sure you're only talking about two residential properties side by side, but Jim's comment earlier about requesting a change to the ordinance that allows outdoor uses of businesses, rear yards, side yards, front yards. It was the one you guys adopted, I don't know if it was 2011, 2012, pretty early on in the tenure. And I think it's the ordinance pursuant to which DJs installed that outdoor bar in the back, where they now serve outside up against the residential properties in the back. And obviously on Main Street, by Connie's property, a restaurant is operating outside as well. And I'm sure you're only thinking about residential properties, but I would just raise the possibility. I don't know how DJ's is laid out, but it seems to me if their parking lot next door to them are separate lots, this ordinance would effectively allow them to extend whatever uses they now have inside DJ's, and they've already extended out to the back. They could also extend that into the parking lot. So I think before you go forward with this, you need to think about what are all the other uses that could do something similar to that, and is that really what you want, simply to solve the problem where, I mean, how many vacant lots do we really have in town? If it's really just to solve a problem for one person, not having to make an application for a planning board for pool or some use in a lot they own next door, maybe there are better ways to do it than to open up the doors to who knows what. Thank you.
You guys aren't planning on putting a pool at DJ's, are you?
You don't know. Not a pool. No, but maybe they're going to knock down the house next door.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion for this ordinance. Second. I'll offer a move for adoption. Ordinance 2014-.
Second.
Councilwoman Keel Blackburn? Yes. Councilman Sutter?
I like Ken's point that someone could interpret it or take advantage of this because I'm in agreement that years ago with this backyard, I mean the outside dining, it was taken advantage of. But since this ordinance is calling specifically for a pool, I can agree with it, but I want to make sure that we don't have something where down the road we can have backyard dining on a residential property that's going to affect the residents of Belmar. But I'm going to vote yes simply because it specifies a pool in this ordinance. But I appreciate the heads up for what could happen with a smart water.
Okay, my answer is yes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Garrett?
Yes. That's it for our ordinances. Next is public session. Anyone has any comments, just raise your hand when you be called on, come up to the microphone, just state your name and address for the record, and then you got 5 minutes to say whatever is on your mind.
Patty Kavanaugh, 1002 Main Street, manager. A year and a half ago, I came to you about a quality of life issue that would affect the residents of Belmar with regards to the outside dining ordinance. There was a lot of chatter about it. I followed up with a letter. This is not in front of you, we're not here, but that change happened back in 2011, and I urged you, because it left the door wide open, this new ordinance that was amended, that it would abut a residential zone and use, and I asked you to fulfill your obligation to the residents of this town and take responsibility in that ordinance. I've heard now that there's been some talk about it, and I just want to give you some facts about what's happened in my life for the past 1.5 years with regards to this. Because my family does own a commercial building. It's 2 doors away from where there is rear outside dining taking place that does abut a residential zone and use. Now people think, well, that's 1002, that's 1006, but except for the fact that 1006, the lot in the rear abuts. Well, it abuts residential zone, but we are on the property line in the rear because 1006 is an L-shaped lot. So maybe some people were confused about that. But having said that, in the beginning, there was no site plan, there was no change of use applications that were filed. And a roof became a deck, but once legal action was taken, then those applications were filed with the town. I have a pretty good idea, Mayor Matt, how you stand on this. You have celebratory functions there, your wife's baby shower was there, you went there for Mother's Day, you were in the back garden patio, days after the zoning officer signed, sealed, and delivered. I do wonder, though, if that influences your decision on outside dining. This, to me, when I came here a year and a half ago, I was coming here to seek the truth. I wasn't coming to win a popularity contest. Nobody wanted to talk about the elephant that was in the room, that there was going to be outside dining, that it was going to affect the residents that live here, not the ones that are just in residential zone, but also the ones that are in residential uses, people that actually live there. It's disgraceful to me, and the only person that said anything about it was Brian McGovern. And he's at numerous planning board meetings because I sat there for 4 hours on end, paying attorneys for those things. And he said he approves of outdoor dining on the sidewalk, but not in the backyard where it would interfere with residents. I want to know how I address a noise issue when I have 68 people sitting in my neighbor's backyard every day, except for Mondays, until 10:30 at night. Dining. When they were given occupancy of 44 on the inside, their rear is 68, their front is 32. That's 100, they have 44 inside. You tell me how that's fair to the residents that live here. Because I don't think that it is. I said it once, I said it twice, it's the last time I'm going to say it. I asked you the question, Mr. Mayor, would you want to live there? And your response to me was that you didn't. You don't live there. And I asked you again, would you want to live there? Well, Patty, I don't live there. You're missing the point. You do live there because you live here. You live in Belmar. So if this is what you want for your residents, this is what you want for your town, then I guess, you know, we're the lucky ones on 10th and 11th Avenue that have to deal with this. This is what we are left with. A capacity of 44 on the inside, outside capacity totals 100 seats, 68 of them are in the rear. We have a residential unit in the rear. It's over the fence. And I know some of you know exactly what that looks like. There's only one person up there that I know doesn't. So you've set a precedent for outside dining to exist in residential zones and uses. And I've been fighting it since day one. I came to you before it even happened. It's my opinion that I don't feel it's the neighborly thing to do to open up a restaurant in your neighbor's backyard. I've been very clear and consistent about my opinion, and I wonder if the silent majority will connect the dots on this one and see what really happens here. I believe that the residents of Belmar are a pretty smart bunch, and once they have all the facts, they can make their decisions. Thank you.
Mark Fitzgerald, 1902 Surf Avenue. I'd like to thank all of the council members, including you, Jim, for starting to address the Lake Como problems. I know you've been to the Smurfs meetings and you've been a supporter of this effort as well, so it's much appreciated. I think we have 100% consensus that Lake Como does need to get fixed. And I really appreciate it if that's one thing that there's no disagreement on. There seems to be complete consensus from both the people in the town and the council people I'm speaking to right now. So if you could take that at least common ground and move forward with it, that would be a great idea. To that, I just have a couple of comments since we do live so close and my neighbors do focus on this quite a bit and often. There is big support for the straight pipe and not the pipe with the turn in it. So, that Spring Lake easement process needs to begin. I can see no reason why that would be delayed. All the long lead times that Paul listed scare me. This problem is urgent, and 6-month lead times and $30,000 application fees and things like that, to me, look like problems. So if something could be done to really get this started, and we move it out of the workshop and into the action phase, that'd be great. One thing missing is storm sewers need to be addressed. That's part of the overall plan. There's significant ponding, especially on Surf Avenue, and the 2 storm sewers that are located there. And any plan that doesn't include storm sewers will not be endorsed. And last, just some sort of overall plan for funding, as well as reimbursement and finding the money. So that's all I have to say, but thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Bill Young, 303 9th Avenue. Actually, this message is from my mother Dolores, who happens to be a senior citizen. We were talking the other night about the redevelopment. We're actually comparing Belmar to Bayonne, New Jersey, and Broadway in Bayonne, and Main Street in Belmar. And she wanted to compliment the administration, especially the mayor and the business administrator, on all the new development and some of the old development, especially Haven and Hamptons, which is property that was owned by Bayonne people. She's very impressed with what Barry Pep is doing. She likes what the Capalco site is going to turn into. She had heard that Ollie Klein's site is getting some work done on it as well, some redevelopment. And as you know, she's a big fan of Pier 9 and also the new Pier 9 development with the food, beverage, retail at the Marina building. Another thing that's very dear to her heart, being a senior citizen, that there's been no tax increase in the last 4 years. She believes in revenue generation, not taxation, and she obviously sees that with all this new redevelopment going on. Me personally, I love what you've done with Silver Lake. I think that's a home run. And I saw the presentation tonight on Lake Como, another home run. I think you guys will find that money, and that's something that needs to be implemented. Again, all these actions are very proactive and smart, and I'll make sure Dolores knows that this message was delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Ron. This is Bill from 1701 A Surf. I have a quality of life question. I just heard the other day that
going to stay after, and you can discuss it sort of off record.
Okay, that's not too late.
No, well, it'll be in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Thank you.
I won't do that. And if anyone else wants to wait afterwards as well, we'll talk about that issue. You have to, if anyone lives in that area, you're going to be affected by it.
You said name, right? It's just coming. Andrea Gangus of 110 14th Avenue. I have a quick question. What's the status of the Epic Pavilion contract that we awarded? Has it been rescinded? Has it been canceled? Are we going to be liable for that?
It was awarded pending completion of the estoppel period. The estoppel period was never completed. Actually, I was talking to Mr. Contact.
Well, my understanding is that you can't award a contract if you don't have money to pay for it. And now that the bond has been shot down, you don't have money to pay for it. So where does that stand, Mr. DuPont?
We don't even notice proceed.
It just goes away. It goes away?
We need to discuss this.
I just want to understand it, because when we
If you want
have
to
the
give them your
seawall.
info, or if you want to give them your info, they'll get back to you exactly what the process is.
That's fine, because I think I know what the process is. When we had the seawall, when we had that built into the boardwalk contract, and we didn't wind up building the seawall, you guys had to pass an ordinance to rescind that part of the contract, so it went away. And it became a change order, and that was taken out of the boardwalk contract. So I would imagine that it's just not going to go away, that we're going to have to actually do something proactive, so we're not liable for $5 million, $11,000.
Well, you're not going to be liable.
So
No, I'm happy to take your information. As I already said, that's something that Mr. DuPont might need.
No, you don't need my information. I think the public should know that.
I'm happy to get you the answer. Okay.
Yes, oh.
Rich Seidel, 201 Surf Avenue, Mayor Council. I would just like to basically state that I'm in complete agreement with Mr. Fitzgerald's comments about speeding up the Lake Como remediation. And I was just hoping that possibly that we could explore, Spring Lake went through a lot recently with the replacement and upgrading of that pipe. And it seems that permits and things are going to be extremely expensive for us to go forward. If there's something we can do to piggyback some of the permits that he just received, it's the same lake. I don't know if it's possible, but it seems like we're doing all these studies. We realize that it's a 60-inch pipe. That's a lot of money. That maybe we can kind of net out that if the government agencies would be a little understanding that you have to go to, they had to get permits for a lot of this stuff. So I'd just like to throw that out. I also, and I'm not an expert on that, but I was looking at all Fletcher Lake and Ocean Grove. They were doing some dredging. And I was just curious if anybody looked into what they were doing with their sand to maybe help Shark River, or possibly if we ever get to the stage where we have to dredge Lake Como. And lastly, again, if we ever looked into steel sheathing for the lake, if that could possibly prevent some type of flooding for a lot of the basements in the area.
Yes, Dave.
David Shack, 302 C Street. That's a little better. Well, first I want to know this bonfire that you're going to have, is that going to release any smoke into the atmosphere? You're going to use like electric log. Or vaporizer maybe or something, right? You're not going to emit any smoke to billow out onto each one area.
It's going to be an E-bonfire.
Yeah, okay, so kind of a double standard there. That one bonfire is going to release more smoke onto the beach than all the smokers ever in the history of Belmar on the beach. That one bonfire will be more. It's enough to wipe out an entire generation of smokers. Okay, now, I really have to object to, we have a problem here that we keep canceling meetings, and you're holding everybody to 5 minutes, maybe some people you're not holding quite the 5 minutes, but, you know, when we cancel all these meetings, and then you're only giving people 5 minutes, it's really, like, really limiting the amount of interaction. I know you enjoy seeing me here, and it really limits the amount of interaction that we can have, you know? And also, when there's so much piles up on the agenda, because all these meetings keep getting canceled, it ends up, the meetings go much later than my bedtime. So, you know, this, I really think if you make a commitment, put out a schedule, have the meetings, you should keep that commitment with the public. That's the time that you want to talk to them. And, you know, I think I'm going to have to go over 5 minutes here. So what was said tonight, you know, and you can't just say, well, you cancel half the meetings, but you still only get 5 minutes with the council, you know, it's not really right. Now, you mentioned that the State Transportation Trust Fund has an apprenticeship program that was approved by the State Senate and the State Assembly. And, you know, the state's run really well, right? Like, we have like really low taxes in New Jersey, right? We should emulate in Belmar what they're doing in Trenton, right? We want our taxes to be low, like our state taxes, right? So, you know, I don't know if we should really follow the state. That's a pretty poor example to follow. Maybe we could find some better guidance from some other municipalities or something, not in New Jersey State. You know, everybody's bailing out in New Jersey. You know, the main reason is taxes, you know. And, you know, you guys are giving the impression here that if you haven't been through an apprenticeship program, you don't even know which end of a hammer to pick up. You know, I've never been in an apprenticeship program. I know how to swing a hammer, okay? I know how to do things. Now, we have the greatest economy in the world in the United States. We have the greatest manufactured goods. We build appliances, cars, rocket ships, airplanes, all this stuff, you know. None of this stuff required union apprenticeship program. You know, private companies train their people to do stuff because they want it done right, you know. And the American products are the best in the world, and they do it without apprenticeship programs. We figure out how to do stuff, you know. So you act like unless you've been through an apprenticeship program, you know, we're all completely helpless. Nobody even knows how to do anything. I think it's really ridiculous, just completely ridiculous. We can get this job done without all this nonsense, you know. And let me see what else I have here. Oh yeah, you know, this thing was like we want to make sure they're paying a fair wage, and we don't want anyone getting paid less than journeyman's rate or whatever. You know, the people that are willing to work for less than journeyman's rate, they're Americans too, you know. And they have families to feed too, you know. You know, I do my job at work for a certain amount. There might be people that, you know, can do my job too, but want $20,000 more a year. Does that mean I'm, you know, interfering with their right to make a good living because I'm willing to do it cheaper? That's the American way. You should just, we all compete, and there should be competition in the public sector, and that's why we have bidding in the first place. The whole point of this extra language in the ordinance is to restrict the bidders, right? That's the whole purpose of it, is to limit who bids, right? So you can't say it's not restricting who's bidding, but the purpose of it is to restrict the bid. So I think I've gone a little bit over 5 minutes, so I'll yield
15 seconds. Come on, wrap it up.
I'll yield the rest of my time to the next questioner. Thank you.
Yeah. I guess you're going to just go up
Doug Sweeney, 1401 Ocean Avenue. We used to have a view of the ocean. We now are facing an outdoor restaurant, 32-seat restaurant, that is a food truck, a giant lemon, and propane tanks and some other things with cooking smells blowing into our house, music going about 12 hours a day. The tables are left on the boardwalk so that diners at night coming from the pizza parlors and others can use those as well. And I wonder, this sort of outdoor restaurant doesn't seem to go through the normal planning and zoning process. And in fact, when you and I talked about it, Mr. Mayor, you said that in many cases, that's the concessionaire decides where he wants to put his restaurant. And that's sort of up to him in terms of what's the most attractive place for him. And I wonder, now that as we're getting ready for the end of this season, and I suspect that we may end up with food trucks again on the ocean next year, whether there is an opportunity for us to review where those might be located, and whether the residents could have some say in this. We spent a lot of money for an ocean-facing lot and built a house there because of the view of the ocean, not because of a food truck and a lemon and all the noise and the smells and the other things that were associated with that. So that's the question. Can we put a process in place next year to decide where to put these?
Seaback, 110 Second Avenue. You know, tonight I heard from my basketball referee, I heard from an airline pilot, I heard from a software company representative. I only heard from one councilman representing me as a taxpayer. And that's very disturbing. The fact that we can't come up here and ask questions is very disappointing. Brian came close to listening to two well-versed citizens in our community, pushing back on something that probably deserves further review, but we couldn't get it over the line. So, being that no one's going to ask any questions, I'll just make some statements. Oh, and as far as Mayor Doherty, we had an email exchange where I reached out to you as the chief executive to speak to the petitioners. We went back and forth, and I could read the whole thing and be dramatic, but the point is, I did my job, got you in touch with the petitioners. I asked for one piece of information regarding the low bidder on the 8th Street project, who we didn't go with. Okay? Whether their bid was disqualified, whether they withdrew it, whatever happened, we did not go with the low bidder. And they're supposed to post a bid bond. My simple question was, did we retain the bid bond? Which I believe was about $20,000. And as of June 27th, never heard back from you, Mayor Doherty, but at least I fulfilled my end. In terms of how the council is run, the council never goes into executive session. And now, I've read about a lawsuit recently with a former contractor who was removed from the job after getting a contract on a Monday, another contract on a Wednesday, and was told to leave on Friday. Now, when we as residents come to you with these questions and concerns, you know, we have a good reason. These numbers, we just saw a flash of a proposed project for $6 million. Is anybody pushing back and saying, is that the best project? Is that the best engineering? Is anyone asking questions about $131 a month in engineering or $1 million on 2 wooden structures on the building? Who is representing us? Mayor Doherty, thank you. For the record, in response to Ms. Ganguz's question, we, by resolution, rejected all bids for the 5th and 10th Avenue Boardwalk Pavilions received on October 11, 2013, at the February 18th meeting. So again, it's a legitimate question. And the fact that you people won't sit up there and answer, or even feedback, or solicit real input, it's a disgrace. It really is. I have the answer to that question. I think there should be a resolution rejecting the bids. How's that? The legal issues, I don't know how you people on the council are being communicated to, because there's no executive session. So when I read about the disposition of a lawsuit here and you're being asked to vote on it, what are you basing your judgments on? Mayor Doherty, has there been an executive session in the borough since you've been the mayor? No.
Last 3 years, I've not been.
Okay. And I shouldn't be asking questions because I know that public comment is just for public comment. But my public comment is, I don't want to hear from the basketball coach, Brian, with all due respect. Lifelong resident, you do a lot of wonderful things on the side in your special interests and your community involvement. I appreciate that. Okay? I want to hear from the council president, McGovern.
How do you mean? Explain that. What do you mean?
Well,
You
made an analogy about how you felt the costs were high, and yet no one pushes back. No one pushes back. You basically made a statement that you were going to prove the residents wrong when this administrative body pushed that referendum to a vote. And guess what? We were not wrong. We were concerned. We remain concerned. And now we're petitioning again. And we're hearing all about how the timeline. The timeline is the ordinance was changed in between the first reading and the second reading. And no one's asking me questions about that.
I
The
brought
language
up
is
the
changed
basketball
materially.
thing to explain how I feel is important for training, that everyone gets training, that if the police department, fire department, even someone that's just a basketball official like I am, you have to have training. Someone building my buildings, I want them to be trained.
I'm glad you feel that way. Councilman McGovern, it's not our job to pay for
the
people
cost
to
of the
be
PLA
trained.
and everything like that, the bid price, that was something different. I did address that later, that the contractor has to use prevailing wage in his bid. And that with the PLA, the laborers get that prevailing wage. I said I was cynical to the fact that there might be some contractors that may pay their laborers less and then keep the money.
Well, you're pointing your citizens in the wrong direction. It's illegal to pay your people less than prevailing wage due to certified payroll. What you're doing is you're burdening all of these people to pay for things they don't have to pay for. And at the state level, if they want to do that, that's a different story. We're Belmar.
Yeah.
And you know what? The evidence is in the facts. The facts are towns around us had their pavilions up substantially less than we paid for them. We're into our pavilion for $1 million in engineering, and no one seems to be concerned about any of that. Now, what I'm saying is, all of you have valuable experience, and you bring these stories to the council and stuff like that, but please start representing us. I want someone up there who's going to ask questions about how it affects the Belmont taxpayers. Maybe it's possible, Brian, Janice, Jennifer, that 25 towns out of 500 and some odd towns is not enough to justify that ordinance being levied upon us. Maybe it's better at the state level. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe the 25 towns are major cities. We don't know. But I still say, based on the simple math, if 25 towns are doing it and 500 towns aren't, I'd like to know both sides of the story. I'd like some people to be asking some questions and having some debate and representing us. Thank you.
All I wanted to mention, actually, I did this last year, we're getting into the tropical storm season, and it's my understanding that Main Street Bridge is going to be closed. Department of Transportation issued a notice, I believe it's first or second week in November. In any case, I guess we'll have to know a little bit about that. The other thing is, driving around town here, apparently all the coastal evacuation signs are no longer mounted in Belmar. In fact, the only one I saw recently is on 16th Avenue just before you get onto Route 35. A little bit concerned because of what happened before Sandy. The north end of town, the Apps Marina decided to move all their boats across Fifth Avenue and put them by the ice cream place there. I know that the police department, I think, did issue tickets or violation notices. I don't know what became of that, but I'm just wondering, you know, if we get another storm coming up the coast here, how we're going to get out of town if it's only 16 towns. And I guess let's put it this way: it's easier for me to find where the Belmar Arts Council was, or where the restaurants are located, but not an evacuation route out of town. I guess last year I made a recommendation also about perhaps using the Belmar Elementary School as a shelter. Historically, it was a shelter. I don't know why for Sandy was decided to use the municipal building here, but the elementary school is a more substantial structure. It's also three plus stories high, in case the water gets very high. Also, more people in town are familiar with this location, and perhaps within walking distance. I wonder if some preliminary, at least discussions be set up with the Board of Education that the elementary school be used as a place to direct people to go in case we do have an emergency here in town again, or have to be evacuated. I'm trying to think of the name of the Brisbane Child Treatment Center, I guess, was the recommended place to go last time. I don't know if anybody has been out there. I think it would be a real benefit to the town to designate the elementary school as a place to go. A lot safer also. Actually, before the storm, I did, or I should say during the storm, I did evacuate the high ground in Wall Township. I went 75 feet up by the Evans area. And came down, I guess, the high tide towards the town here. And I did go and park by the turnaround by the elementary school. We didn't know how high the water was going to come. But look, I can tell you one thing. If the water started coming up the Main Street, I would have gotten into that school. That school did have lights that came on when we did lose power. And it, like I said, it's 3 stories high. Most substantial structure. Maybe evacuation sign. Also, I made a recommendation last year that any evacuation order, the code red system be operated by the police, not by elected officials. Last meeting, I requested also what happened to our notice of taxpayers for ordinance 2013-07, and that's the tax exemption and abatement ordinance. I did receive a whole pile load of mailings from the borough, but I have not received the notice, and I don't think any other property owner has. And Mayor, at the last meeting, you said you would get one. Right. I guess one last thing here, nobody mentioned it. The picture in the lobby. When I came in to vote, that was the first time I had seen it. I guess it was just put there and read the story. It's very interesting. It's similar to Rosie the River during World War II, and I guess that's women taking the jobs of men when men had to war. I thought it was very interesting. One thing I did notice, though, when I looked at the picture, since it was during the war, the artist made a historical blunder. There were only 48 states during World War II. And the flag that's in the back of the portrait is the 50-star flag. The 50-star flag. The 50-star flag was not established until after the last war. So we all got something we can laugh about.
So we get the blue magic one.
No, actually, the 48-star flag is 6 by 8. The stars are not staggered.
I love it.
Martha Masalco, 102 North Belmar. I just want to echo what Mark Fitzgerald said and Rich Seidel about Lake Como, and I really appreciate all your support for fixing it. I was taken back too that all these permits are required and it takes 6 months. I was wondering if we could set a timeline that the ones that cost nothing could be filed right away, and also with this cost being so high, if we could get other people to bid on that and see if that really has to be the figure. Because I do think it's so important to fix it. And so I'm asking that we, we'll set the time.
Don't want to interrupt you, but just to be clear, it's just an estimate by
Can't hear
it's an estimate by the engineering firm. It's definitely around the bid, but they come up with an estimate of the bid. We can get someone else to estimate it.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because it seems so.
You could, but you can't hold it to an estimate. It has to go out to bid.
Right, right. I'm just asking timeline, moving, so we have a sense of when it really could be accomplished, a realistic timeframe. Because as you know, the weather. Thank you.
We want to move as quickly as possible.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Mike Roberti, 1804 Schneider Avenue. I'd like to comment a little bit on the Lake Como project. I came last workshop, ready to hear the proposal and see how the three towns got together to fix the problem. And I was very shocked to hear that this was a not all-inclusive project, but was initiated and will be burdened by Belmar taxpayers alone. I see you have a great relationship with Mayor Ryan. I'm sure you have a similar good relationship, although maybe the DPW, Lake Como, or Spring Lake doesn't want to fix or adjust the pipe as quickly as you would like. But for $6 million as an estimate, I think we need to get a shared at least three towns. Has anybody, what have been the discussions in Spring Lake and Lake Como regarding this project that led you to take on the responsibility and the cost of major engineering to begin with? Not that you need to respond. And then the other thing is, after our last meeting, I talked with the representative from Mazer and mentioned the breach at Alair State Park that caused the flooding of Lake Como, which is probably 5 miles outside that blue line that was listed in the watershed area. The watershed area is much greater, goes through a much greater area of wall, and perhaps this is a county solution that needs to be looked at in terms of when it was discussed about impervious cover and variances going on in Wall Township. The contributions from less than the little footprint that we have in our section of Belmar needs to be contributed by more taxpayers. And I'll close with saying, although you have immunity in the town, what liability potential is there if the pipe fails for residents outside Belmar? Wall Township that get flooded, Spring Lake that get flooded, Lake Como that get flooded. And finally, I agree with the gentleman's concerns about the storm sewers, but I wouldn't just look at Surf Avenue storm sewers. Please look at the rest of the town. Schneider Avenue also has concerns, as does 18th Avenue. Thank you.
See no other questions, comments, I'll make a motion to.
Paul Carew, 110 4th Avenue. I want to end it on a high note. I want to thank you guys for the great job done on 8th Street. You're under a lot of water after Sandy, and the job done on the contractor was really amazing, excuse me. I understand it was under budget and the time frame, and they just did a great job right now. It's working fine, and it worked. Had a good test of it this about a month ago when we got it. It was really heavy storm and it worked well. So good job on that. Nice bidding job. Worked out well, and that's the way it should all be done. Thank you very much.
Chris Walters, 41514. Well, thank you for going along, getting along. I wanted to thank Mike for he snuck out pretty quick. Traffic, I know we're going to switch to 2 ways. I don't even know if this is a session to do it, but should we look to even one way for the winter, and then signs for, you guys all called me last winter a lot about moving your cars off where it's snow. I remember Lake Como a couple years ago had the street signs out saying you have to move your car. So the police would be able to issue tickets. I shoveled my driveway a few times, and the painter contractor trucks and the trucks on the street parked there, plowing around, and then I had to dig out another 4 feet, of snow. So
We did recommend keeping it one way about 2 years ago, and all the neighbors came and they complained. So that's why why we went back the way we've been doing it. So,
Joy Sanctus, 101 6th Avenue. I just think it would be incredibly remiss if we did not mention the special election and to thank every voter that came out. We had a tremendous outpouring of citizens that felt it was important to have their voices heard. I especially want to thank Brian. At one point during one meeting, you did acknowledge that it was a good idea to put it to vote, so thank you for that, because that was nice. And of course, Councilman Bean, you are wonderful in your support of the residents. You listened to us for almost 13 months on this issue, that all we wanted was for it to go to vote and for the residents to really decide what they want to do in this area. As far as moving forward, I think we're a little slow on that. Councilman Bean did mention that he'd like to see the plans on the 10th Avenue building, and you mentioned that they were too big and they can't be uploaded online, or they can't be visualized online. They're certainly not available to review in person at the town, because I've done that myself. I have a lot of questions about the 10th Avenue that I don't think needs to go back and forth with Oprah requests. I think you should communicate with the people and let us know what's going on with that building so we can move forward. We can probably do the legwork on it now, so we're ready to go and build very soon. I can't imagine why you would be hesitating. I hope you really consider separating the buildings and stop holding the 10th Avenue building hostage until we figure out what we want to do with the Taylor Pavilion. I think that was a problem. I would also appreciate an answer on the petition. I don't know if you have a council meeting scheduled. There would be a 40-day time period for it to go through the correct process, and whether or not there's a council meeting, I would appreciate an email if you could consider that, so at least we know what your position is by October on whether or not we are going to have to deal with this through a referendum. You went over a tremendous conversation about the timeline and how the bids were reduced, were the bids less, more, why, you don't know why. But I think the question is, how many bid packets did you send out in December, and how many were received? And if you could just answer that question, I think you'll answer that question. Just, how many did you send out? I know you don't speak back.
I'll find out about that one.
Okay, because that kind of seems like that would address that issue if the language in the petition really affected that. That's a good question to ask. I would like an accounting of the $1,035,000 bill of Mazer. I'd like to know, do we owe all of that? Is some of that part of that $650,000 proposal? What is still due? I mean, it's all over the place. I've personally asked for invoices. I've gotten some. Other people have asked. They've gotten others. We're all over the place with this Mazer Consulting and Engineering, and what is due, what is part of the proposal. So if you could communicate that to people through your email or online, through your requests of what they want, I think it would help them better to determine what to do with regarding moving forward with the pavilions. We still don't know if we owe the entire $1 million, so how can we make a decision on how to go with the pavilions? And finally, Brian, you had mentioned that the PLA is what protects us against possible contractors that may not pay the prevailing wages they're required to do. That's kind of regulated by the state and the Department of Labor, and a municipality has the right to audit the payroll of contractors for that very purpose, to make sure that they are meeting up to the requirement of paying prevailing wage. That's all I have.
So how would you save money if they have to bid on prevailing wage, pay it, if the unions have to do the same thing? So I don't see where you're going to save on labor costs.
Well, that's not where you would save on labor costs. Where you would save on labor costs is not requiring a union that already has an apprenticeship program in place to additionally be a member of the federal apprenticeship program. That's what you're asking. That costs additional money, and that translates into additional money for labor. The union, every union has an apprenticeship program. We used to have it where it was unions or non-unions that could apply for any bid. Now it's only unions that participate in the Federal Department of Labor apprenticeship program. It's like the Local 9 union has an apprenticeship program. Why do we need another apprenticeship program to work together? That's all I have to say. Thank you. And thank you, Councilman Dean.
Claire Dyke, 1017 14th Avenue. I just want to reiterate what Councilman Blackburn said about our library celebration. That was wonderful. Our library is 100 years old, so I think it was established and funded by Andrew Carnegie. It was a magnificent event, and I thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor and the Council, I thank you for all the activities that you provide for our senior residents, our children, and our general population. I think we've never had as many programs, as many events, all supporting our wonderful residents. Thank you very much. I wanted to end on a positive note.
Thank you. With that, I'll make a motion to close the public portion and adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll stick around for folks who want to talk about
Yeah, that's the fellow, right? Yeah. Good. Yeah, he works with some guys I work. Okay.